Hello and welcome to Top 666. I'm G and I'll be hosting the episode today. We're going to talk about one of the sickest, spectacular, spooky films in theaters right now, Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. Guided by a seductive and mysterious woman, a couple on vacation venture outside the resort grounds and find themselves in a culture filled with violence, hedonism, and untold horror. A tragic accident soon leaves them facing a zero-tolerance policy for crime. Either you'll be executed, or, if you're rich enough to afford it, you can watch yourself die instead. So just as a warning, this video does contain some light spoilers for the film, so if you haven't seen it yet, proceed with caution, maybe come back after you've seen it. But with that, let's get to my top 6 favorite things about Infinity Pool. Number 6 is going to be a tie between the gore effects and the cast. Obviously, you can have a really good horror film with bad gore effects, or a really bad horror film with good gore effects. And I'd say this movie is super good with pretty good gore effects. Everything looks super realistic, and the acting done to sort of support how realistic the gore was supposed to be was pulled off very effectively. I just have one tiny critique about it. There's one scene where there's a lot of blood pooling at Alexander Skarsgård's feet, and it does look really fake. It's really like opaque and vivid, and it doesn't not that I've seen that much human blood in that much quantity before. But it just didn't really look that realistic to me, which is totally okay, because if it looked too realistic, people would probably start to speculate things. So next up is the casting. Obviously, outside of our leads, Alexander Skarsgård as James Foster and Mia Goth as Gabby Bauer, the supporting cast acted fantastically. They were really able to convey just how shitty and slimy of people they were, and just be like downright disgusting humans when needed to be. Cleopatra Coleman was absolutely amazing as M. Foster, and I think all the grief and guilt and fear she carries for most of the movie just felt really realistic, and like my heart just broke over and over for her again as her husband in the film spins more and more into madness. I hope I pronounced his name right, but mad props to Jalil Lesper as Albin, Gabby's husband, and Alexander Skarsgård for moaning and whimpering constantly throughout the movie and playing a pathetic and puzzled character so well. And there will be more on Mia Goth later. So I think my 5th favorite thing about the film is the production design. This movie was so nice to look at. I mean, obviously, like, besides the gore and stuff, the production design was so nice to look at. The contrast between, like, the sterile, white, upscale resort to sort of anywhere outside of the compound, they called it, was just, like, such an interesting visual contrast. I think they did it really, really well and sort of did a lot of world building with that itself. I think this movie was able to pull a lot off visually to say about like resorts and the tourism industries in poorer countries and trying to hide that part of it from guests as much as possible. Also, the masks that they wear in the film were very off-putting but very fitting to the story and the mise-en-scène of the film. Also, bonus points for showing infinity pools over and over again. So number 4, let's talk about the story a bit. I went into this movie knowing very, very little about it, which I was glad about. I feel like if I had known sort of like even the synopsis I gave at the beginning of this video, I would have been sort of less surprised and shocked about some of my favorite moments in the movie. Brandon Cronenberg is just so good at making these weird, haunting, off-putting movies, and I just really admire how crazy he goes with dark themes. The story says a lot about just how disgusting humans can be if they have all, like, abundance of wealth and access to the ability to just be downright terrible with absolutely no repercussions because they're so rich they can just sort of pay to have their problems go away. I think my favorite scene in the movie is when the doubles trick you into thinking it's actually like the real versions of them dying in sort of like that 8-way execution scene. My jaw actually hit the floor of the theater when the camera like turned from everyone being dead to the bench over there and they were all alive and cheering on their doubles performances. That was very shocking and very effective, I think, and I really, really enjoyed that scene. I also think the ending was really effective as well, and I think it's a really great story element to have this sort of unexplained ending almost. It's like, did James get on the plane and the rainy resort is just like a dream he's having as he's flying home? Is it a metaphor for how part of his soul will always be at the resort because of how much trauma he went through there and all of the things he did there? Or did he just not get on the plane at all and he's just gonna hang out at this resort during the rainy season? So let's talk about the score and sound design, which I've lumped together under the title Sound. One thing that really blew me away on this film was the audio. I'm so glad I got to see it in the theater and be able to experience the film with like theater audio setting and just like a nice big dark, quiet room with the surround sound and stuff. I think the score was chilling and unnerving. The sound design just filled me with dread in the best way possible. I really have to give a hand to the entire sound crew, both on set and in post-production, for pulling off an auditory experience that already adds so much to the haunting visuals of the film. Let's talk about Mia Goth. She's number 2 on the list because obviously she's a star! She's a star! She is just killing it, literally and actually, on the screen lately, and I'm just so glad she got to play another deranged character again where she can just lose her mind. I'm really glad I didn't know much about her role in the film going in to see it, because I was honestly surprised, not how long it took for her to show up in the film, but like she was listed as like a main cast member on the poster, so I expected she would be quite involved from the film from the get-go. But there is a little bit of story establishing before she shows up, which is fine. She knocked it out of the park with this one. Just that scene where they're trying to get James Foster off the bus, and she's just hanging out of the car being like, James!
What are you doing in there, James? Huh? Where do you think you're going, you little baby?
She's so good. She's a star. She's a star. Mia Goth is a star, and she's just killing it on screen lately. I'm so happy for her, and I hope she gets the recognition that she deserves for playing all these incredibly amazing, deranged women on screen. So last but not least, my favorite thing about Infinity Pool was the Brandon Cronenberg montage things. I don't know what they're actually called. They're these amazing little montages in Brandon Cronenberg films where it's like neon visuals and like crazy sound and all kinds of like lights and colors and stuff that just like, it's like an experience. It's so cool because it really puts you in sort of it puts you in the story. I've been saying story a lot, but it puts you in the story because especially for a lot of the hallucination scenes, I think it really adds to sort of just how crazy it must feel for the characters in the story. They also had montages like this in Possessor, and that was the first Brandon Cronenberg movie I watched. Even that just like blew my mind. You gotta see this movie, if not just for Brandon Cronenberg's filmmaking style. So that was my top 6 favorite things about Infinity Pool. If you've seen the film, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it and maybe what your favorite 6 things were. And if you liked the movie or not, or give me a little review down in the comments and I'll be chatting with you guys. So that's all for Top 666 today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Stay groovy.